I'm going to ask you to explain your theory of the physical and the immaterial layers of the story. Because when I was reading, this is one of the first like major things that I was reading. They went, oh my God, this is incredible. I've never read this before. Because in dynamic story creation, you have a theory of a physical layer of the story and an invisible layer of the story, and how these two things interact, which I had never read before. Will you give everybody a summary of what this is and what this means in your story?
Can I brag on myself just a little bit?
Sure.
Full disclosure, I'm actually dyslexic. I have never been to college except for the colleges that pay me to come teach there. And I have a remedial 9th grade English education. Like, if there is anybody that should not only be a professional writer, but teach writing, it's me. And if you had told a 14-year-old Drake that he would grow up to be a writer, he would have kicked you. And if you said you were going to teach writing all over the world, he would spit on you after he kicked you. Like, I hated this stuff growing up because I was dyslexic and I didn't understand it. I sent the manuscript to a college professor friend of mine who teaches the MFA course at a large prestigious.
The dynamic story creation manuscript?
Yeah, the dynamic story creation. And, in the beginning, I talk about how we've been telling stories on paper for about 7,000, 8,000 years. That's the oldest, tablet fiction story that we have. And he said, you're right. That's it. And here's the most amazing thing about dynamic story creation to him. And again, I'm bragging a little bit, but this is his words. This industry is 10,000 years old. And I counted 7 theories in this book that have never been created before. Theories on writing. And it is weird to me that some uneducated just hick from Louisiana can do something in an industry that's this old and this set in its ways. But yeah, so the invisible layer versus the physical layer is one of those unique theories of mine. All of my theories are not me sitting around like a college professor, waxing all philosophical. These are how
Let me handle that.
Well, this is how I teach my broken brain how to tell stories. So when I'm learning, it's so funny to me that people love how I teach, because I'm just like, I'm just teaching you the broken brain way to do this. Because I get all these people that are like, oh my God, I went to 4 years of creative writing school and I learned more in your 1-hour class than I learned in the entire 4 years there. I'm like, yeah, I just taught you like a word that we're not allowed to say anymore, the R word. The broken brain word. I'm like, because that's how I had to learn it. My brain's broken. So these theories were not for you. I didn't mean to get them out to the world. They were for me. And so when I'm looking at themes and I'm looking at, because when you go to an MFA class, they will teach you about themes. And I'll save you $150,000 because this is the entire thing that they do. They say you must have a theme in your story. If you don't have a theme, you don't have a story, which I agree with. They say you can never mention your theme. If you mention your theme, you're preaching and the readers won't like it, which I agree with. And then they say, good luck. That's it. That's how they teach themes. That didn't work for me. I'm not smart enough or lucky enough to figure that out. So when I actually sat down and really started looking at what makes a story work and what makes a story not work, because I also love looking at stuff that's broken and trying to figure out why it's broken and how it could be fixed, I realized that everything that you read or watch on screen is the physical layer. And again, that's all this stuff that isn't real. The characters, the conflict, the lightsabers, the Death Stars blown up, the Kung Fu room and all of that. All of that is there solely to deliver the theme, which we're not allowed to say. So I saw that as an invisible layer. So the invisible layer is the actual story that you're telling. The actual thing that is going to move the audience. The physical layer is just the UPS truck. It's just the delivery vehicle that delivers the invisible layer. And so that's how I came up with that theory. I mean, it was just me trying to figure out how this works and how am I going to use it as a professional.
So can you articulate a little bit, using Star Wars as an example, what you're talking about with regard to the physical layer and the invisible layer, and what the interplay is and why that one is so fantastic? An example.
So the physical layer is everything that's in the movie. So it's, the droids and Luke Skywalker and, sand people and everything else. The invisible layer is the theme. It's what we can never mention. That's why the reason why I think it's so well done is because usually when I tell somebody that's watched it 1,000,000 times and I tell them, oh yeah, no, it's about, should you believe in faith or technology? They're like, what? There's no faith in that movie. What are you even talking about? So every scene is on the invisible side is bouncing between the two sides of the theme. So one of the reasons why another theory in that book that I created was everyone teaches themes as a question. They say, oh, it's a question, you know, which should you trust, faith or technology? That didn't work for me. To me, that's for the audience. The question is for them. What I need two statements. So if I was writing Star Wars, the theme that I would play with on my side would be only technology will save you. Only faith will save you. And then in each scene that I'm creating, one of those two would be proven true. And so on the visible layer, you ask, what is the scene doing? So like I said, in the scene where he's fighting the little laser ball thing and he's got the blindfold on and he fails miserably and he gets zapped several times. We have faith. Dude, faith is all you can do. Faith is what's going to save you. But he fails, and then Han Solo says that beautiful iconic line of nothing beats a good blaster at your hip, kid. Like hokey religions, that's never going to do it. That scene proves technology is the only thing that's going to save you, kid. That's it. So that's what I mean by that. What you have to understand on the invisible side is, what is the scene actually proving? What is it actually doing for the audience? What's it making them feel? And what is it making them struggle with? You know, that question. So that when we get to the end and the character has to make that decision, or the world has to make that decision, if we're using an external story arc, it matters to the audience. They don't notice it. That's why I call it the invisible layer, or I also teach it as a reader's unknown expectations. That's what the invisible layer fulfills. It fulfills the reader's unknown expectations. They have no idea. Fans only know whether they like a movie or not. That's it. That's their responsibility. Give me $12. Like it, give me 5-star. Hate it, give me 1 star. That's your job. And that's it. But as a professional story creator, I need way more than that, especially if I want to get that 5-star review. And so that's what I mean by that. Does that answer your question? Does that get you?
Yeah, it does. So like you talk about also that, okay, you've got the Empire versus the Rebellion fighting on this physical layer, but then also in Star Wars, you put, so sometimes the Empire is going to be up, and sometimes the heroes are going to be up. The Rebellion's going to be up, and that's the physical layer oscillating back and forth that you're going to remember.
That's called reversals.
Reversals, right? Reversals on the physical layer. That's what you're seeing on the. But then you say that you also have this debate between faith and technology that's going on, and crucially, in this case, they put advocates of both faith and technology on both sides of the physical layer. So Darth Vader on the good side, easily. You've got Han Solo, who's advocating for technology. You've got Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's advocating for faith. And Luke is trying to decide in the middle here. And he's hearing these characters who are advocating. But then also on the bad guy's side, you put Darth Vader, who's advocating for faith, and you put Grand Moff Tarkin, who's advocating for technology. So not only are you doing up and down physical layer back and forth, but you're oscillating with back and forth faith and technology. Sometimes the bad guys are up, and sometimes they're up because of faith, and sometimes they're up because of technology. Sometimes the good guys are up because of faith. Sometimes the good guys are up because of technology. And you've got this incredible dance throughout the whole movie.
And I actually think that is the reason why Star Wars has been such an impact on people. Because normally you only do that on one side. Like to come up with that matrix, and that's what I call it, the story matrix of it. To come up with a matrix where you have the theme warring both on the hero side and on the villain side, there's not many people that have ever pulled that off. And it is why. So what does this do? And again, this is all about the reader. It has nothing to do with the story. What does this do for the reader? It means that you're off balance. You're never quite sure which way we're going to go. Because now we have, like you said, we have the bad guys using faith to win, but we got the good guys using faith to win. But we got the bad guys using technology to win, but we got the good guys using tech. What's going on? And I think that's why it has such an impact on audiences, is because you really do struggle through that whole. And again, it's unknown. You're not actually thinking about this stuff. That's what, and especially with Star Wars, that's why most people, when I say that again, never even realize that they're actually trying to decide between faith and a greater power and technology. But what was relevant in the 70s? That's the other thing is that stores will have more impact based on what is relevant. Yes, themes are eternal. However, society has things going on. You know, we live in a world right now that has things going on that weren't going on even 5-6 years ago. So as society changes, story creators need to write stories that are relevant not just to the human equation, but to the time period equation as well. And if you do it right, it won't matter if society changes. The story will still impact, maybe not as much, but it'll still absolutely impact in the future as well.